we need to remember here, this was Hezbollah attacking Israel, attacking IDF, and Israel has the right to defend itself. Certainly they do broadly, but this is a case where they were attacked. Now, as you noted, there's long been a UN Security Council resolution that kind of monitors peace along the line of the blue line there, and that's certainly something. Reducing the tension, reducing the back and forth, having peace in that area is certainly something we would support and we hope for.
Jen Psaki, the State Department spokesperson on CNN, offering the view from the administration and the State Department with Miranda Khan, J.D. Hayworth. And Miranda, Israel has been on high alert following that assault by Hezbollah.
Yeah, 2 Israeli soldiers and a Spanish peacekeeper were killed after Hezbollah fired 5 missiles at a convoy of Israeli military vehicles. Some experts believe the attack was in retaliation for an Israeli airstrike that killed several Hezbollah members and an Iranian general.
Joining us now, the American Enterprise Institute's Michael Rubin. He is the author of the book, Dancing with the Devil, The Perils of Engagement. Michael, as we welcome you in, as you Skype in from Washington, here is yet another military engagement, Hezbollah and Israel. The official line is that both sides are trying to de-escalate. Is that true? What is the real story this morning?
Well, ultimately, I think the Iranians are scared to death that this will get out of control like it did in 2006. The reason why it's so important for the Iranians that it not get out of control is most analysts believe that if Israel and Hezbollah ever go back to full-scale fighting, it simply lowers the bar for an Israeli strike on Iran. Because when you game out the scenarios, if Israel were to ever strike at Iran's nuclear program, the first thing they would have to do is take out many of the Hezbollah missiles. So if Hezbollah is already firing those missiles, then the Israeli officials and strategists might figure now's as good a time as any, in for a penny, in for a pound.
Michael, you mentioned Iran. Do you think Iran played a role in this attack?
Well, certainly this notion that Hezbollah is motivated by resistance to Israel or that Hezbollah is a Lebanese nationalist organization, that lie has been exposed. When you have Hezbollah basically doing the fighting inside Syria on behalf of Iran, on behalf of Bashar al-Assad, you can't claim, as many Europeans and some American diplomats do, that Hezbollah has become a Lebanese political party and shouldn't be considered a terrorist group. They've proven themselves that when push comes to shove, they are a terrorist group. A couple years ago, I toured some Hezbollah-run caves in southern Lebanon, and I saw some of their command headquarters and so forth, and where the terrorists were sleeping. And over their bedrolls, they had pictures of Ayatollah Khomeini and Ayatollah Khamenei. A picture shows 1,000 words.
Well, the picture that you have offered to us, I have to tell you, is different from what I've been hearing, but I appreciate it and I want to talk more about it. What I understood was that Iran really wanted to see Israel devote its resources to another fight with Hezbollah or someone there on its border so that Iran would be free to do things. But you're telling us it's exactly the opposite, that if Israel has to get militarily engaged with Hezbollah, they're more likely to strike Iran.
Well, absolutely, that's what I'm saying. Now, the Iranians have always been full of bluster. That said, they need to recognize that if Hezbollah starts launching its missiles at Israel, Israel doesn't need to fear the retaliation from Iran should Israel strike at Iran's covert nuclear weapons program, because they're already feeling that retaliation. The retaliation are Hezbollah's missiles. But also, JD, let's take a step back. In 2006, when there was a ceasefire between Hezbollah and Israel, that ceasefire was achieved on the condition that Hezbollah wouldn't rearm. Now they have more missiles than they've ever had before. It's just another example of a false deal, sort of like the deal that the United States and the Soviet Union and Russia guaranteed Ukraine's sovereignty if Ukraine gave up its nuclear missiles. It's just one other case where we see in the region that no one is going to trust American diplomacy or UN diplomacy because guarantees are worth zero.
And speaking of guarantees, how long do you think this ceasefire will actually last?
Well, we see the same pattern between Hezbollah and Hamas as well with regard to Israel, that whenever they get bloodied, they don't want accountability. They're going to fall back on diplomacy, on peacemakers, in order to shield themselves from the accountability for their terrorist actions. That said, what do they do during the ceasefire? It's not build wells, it's not build schools. Rather, it's to rearm, to coordinate with the Iranians just to prepare their next attack. And unfortunately, Israel's caught in this cycle of attrition.
We have a couple of minutes left. And despite the talk of a de-escalation, press accounts had Prime Minister Netanyahu saying that there would be an appropriate response. Has anything happened yet in terms of a retaliatory act on the part of Israel against Hezbollah?
No, we haven't seen that retaliation yet, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it soon. Israel's always been a fan of pinprick attacks. They'll go after the leaders. They're not going to go after ordinary soldiers. They're not going to go after civilian targets. That's the difference between a responsible state and a terrorist group. And so if I were a Hezbollah leader, I'd be very, very concerned right now. You know, when former Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad came to Beirut, he gave speeches out in the open, but I was in Beirut about a week afterwards, and I was in the southern suburbs, which are controlled by Hezbollah, and what people were talking about is Hassan Nasrallah, the Secretary General of Hezbollah, wouldn't get on the platform, the dais, with Ahmadinejad, simply because Hassan Nasrallah and Hezbollah knew that he was just too tempting of a target. He's not giving speeches in public anymore. He's been bloodied, and he knows that he's in the crosshairs.
About a minute 30 remains. We have heard talk that Hezbollah, or I beg your pardon, that the Iranians actually have put out a statement via the internet today that depicts Netanyahu's sons in the crosshairs of a sniper site, saying that Hezbollah was coming for them, in other words, targeting Netanyahu's sons. How serious should the Prime Minister take that threat? A minute remains, Michael.
Well, the Prime Minister should take that threat seriously, but then again, Hezbollah said they're going to come after all Jews, not Israelis, all Jews, wherever they are in the world. And the fact of the matter is, Netanyahu is not a shrinking violet. His brother was killed in the raid in Entebbe. Netanyahu himself had honorable military service. He knows what we're up against, and one of the frustrations when he's dealing with U.S. policymakers, especially in the White House, they've never faced an existential threat, they've never served in the military, and they don't know the nature of evil.
Michael Rubin, as always, we thank you for your time and your insights once again. The name of Michael's book is Dancing with the Devil, The Perils of Engagement. Again, our thanks to the author, who Skyped in from Washington, D.C. There is lots more to come on America's Forum, specifically a visit with another congressman. South Carolina Representative Jeff Duncan will talk about illegal immigration and why the speaker wants to file suit again against the administration. Now, a Newsmax update.